The New York Rangers face the Minnesota Wild tonight at 7:00. Mollie Walker, our New York Post Rangers beat writer, is joining us now. Mollie, how you doing?
Pretty good. How are you, Ryan?
I'm doing well. And since the last time we spoke, the Rangers have gotten caught by the injury bug here a little bit. Obviously, Adam Fox, a huge blow, long-term IR with a lower body injury. Filip, he goes on IR as well with another injury. And Igor Shesterkin, we saw him banged up a little bit, and he hasn't played in the last couple of games. So just talk about Mollie, and I want to ask you, the Rangers, how they've been able to absorb these big blow injuries, because these aren't small pieces on this team. How have they been able to not only absorb these injuries, but play some really good hockey along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. It's unfamiliar territory for the Rangers. This is a little unprecedented. They've had tremendous luck on the injury front in the last few years. And like you said, these are not, dispensable pieces of their lineup at all. Adam Fox is a Norris Trophy winner, their top defensive pair, and the quarterback of their top power play. Filip truly morphed into a second line center here between Artemi Panarin and Alexei Lafreniere. Also on the second power play unit, and obviously Igor Shesterkin has been the backbone of this team for years. So it's definitely a tough blow, but that being said, they have built themselves a tremendous cushion through a very, very strong start to the season. And it's also early November. So if these injuries are going to happen at any point in time, let it be now. And I think the fact that Adam Fox going on LTIR has allowed for the Rangers to call up the necessary reinforcements that they feel like they need. And now that Jonathan Quick is also banged up with an upper body injury, they're able to dip into both of their Hartford tandem and bringing both of those guys up, Dylan Garand and Louis Domingue. Louis Domingue will get the start tonight against the Minnesota Wild. Yeah, but this is where their depth is going to be 100% challenged, and that is something that they have not had to deal with in the last couple of years. But sticking with the goaltending front, why Chris Drury signed Louis Domingue to a 2-year deal for the price point that he did, and that's to have a third string netminder who has more NHL experience than a lot of other third string netminders around the league. So you gotta give props to Drury for setting that up. And nobody's gonna live up to Igor Shesterkin, and Jonathan Quick
who's played well
to a very, very good start, very, very strong start after a shaky preseason. So it's going to be tough to fill the holes of both of those guys. And there will definitely be a bit of a drop off, but Domingue is an experienced guy who basically said this morning that it's just another game to him, which is kind of the attitude that you want to have from a third string netminder getting thrown into the fire on a winning team, no less. But same thing with Fox and Chytil. Erik Gustafsson steps up.
Yeah.
Alongside Ryan Lindgren. They've been fine. He quarterbacks the top power play. It's a different look, but it's not that bad of a look either. So, Peter Laviolette is a big fan of Erik Gustafsson and has a lot of trust in him as well, which has made it easier for him as a coach to transition. And then Vincent Trocheck was brought in to be a second line center.
Yep.
The fact that he just gets to step right back up there. He has chemistry and experience skating next to Artemi Panarin. So I think that they have the necessary tools in place to just play to that next man up cliche that they throw around sports. So it's not an ideal situation, but I think that the timing of it all, it's better now than later.
Yeah, and you hit on a great point there, Mollie, about the team depth, right? They're testing it early with all these injuries, and you're seeing the next man step up on this roster. I think that's something that's been different about this Rangers team, even though it's early in the season, is the depth they've been able to build this offseason for this Rangers team compared to last year, where it felt like, you're tight against the cap. Some of these guys that you're having them step in just aren't, up to par compared to those guys. If you're missing big pieces like you are with Adam Fox and Filip and obviously Igor Shesterkin. And it just, for me, the defensive side for the Rangers, you've talked about this a lot, and you break it down in our New York Post Rangers podcast, Up in the Blue Seats. I'm going to get it right this time. Up in the Blue Seats. You co-host with Andrew Hartz and Brian Boyle. It's a great podcast. Rangers fans should definitely listen here on the New York Post Sports YouTube page. But the defensive structure this team plays in, it feels a lot better when you're watching it on the ice, right? And my question to you is do you feel like the Rangers, as they're currently constructed, with their defensive core, with Adam, even with Adam Fox out and not captaining that power play, and also on that first pair with Lindgren, they have enough talent though to get by with the guys they currently have?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it goes back to what you were talking about with the depth that they were able to bring in the offseason. And I don't even look at Eric Gustafson as depth, but to get Eric Gustafson for the price point that they did was a steal.
Yeah.
I mean, he gives them such a different look back there, and he plays a different style than a lot of the players in that core do, just constantly moving, constantly looking for offense. And it's been not only is he the most NHL caliber guy that they've had in that left pair, bottom pair spot, but he has played to it as well. And I think that going back to the trust between Laviolette and Gustafson has made this transition period really easy for Laviolette, because he knew exactly where he wanted to go. It wasn't even a question. And you look at a guy like Zach Jones, who has been waiting in the wings for some time now to get an extended look, and now this is his opportunity. You mentioned his pairing with Braden Schneider has been a bit of a mixed bag. They've had their moments, but they've also had some pretty tough moments as well. But I think that's just a byproduct of it being a young pair trying to find its footing. But I think it'll be great experience for Zach Jones, and the more consistent reps that he gets should benefit him in the long run. So I think that they are pretty well equipped on the back end in particular. I think that if we're looking way ahead at the trade deadline, that the bottom six would probably be something that they want to bolster rather than defense, because they are pretty solid back there right now.
Yeah, it's a great point by you, and it's not a great opportunity for Zach Jones, like you said. My final thing I want to talk to you about is Kaapo Kakko. You spoke to him. Obviously, he was demoted from the first line in the last game, and we saw Blake Wheeler jump up to that first line with Zibanejad and Kreider. This 5-on-5 for the Rangers scoring hasn't been great to start the season, despite how their record and that they've been scoring a lot of goals, obviously, on the power play. But when you're looking at Kaapo Kakko, he was one of those guys that a lot of Rangers fans were looking forward to how he was going to develop and finally get his chance on that first line. What more can you say about when you talk to Kakko and obviously his play to start the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think it all is right there in the article that I wrote. The first quote, I just transcribed that whole thing from start to finish and plugged it in the article, because that was his response to me just straight up asking him how he would evaluate his own start to the season. He knows he should be better. He wants to be better. And he knew that that was a big opportunity for him on the first line with Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider. And those are guys that he did play with last season. They had their ups and downs, never really quite stuck. But Kakko told me that Laviolette came to him in the preseason and said, I saw some games that you had with those guys, and he liked what he saw. So that was an easy starting point for Laviolette. That being said, the production hasn't been there, especially at 5-on-5. And for a first line, you need to produce a lot more at 5-on-5 than that trio has. So the way that Laviolette put it was he just wanted a bit of a change of scenery. And we knew that this was what Blake Wheeler was brought in to do. You know, if it didn't work out for one of the kids in those top 6 spots, that was going to be his spot for the taking. And that's exactly what's happened. And the way that Laviolette put it is 100% right. Blake Wheeler has been taking top line reps his entire career, playing alongside guys that are the same caliber as Chris Kreider and Mika Zibanejad. So I thought that the Detroit game wasn't terrible for that first line. I think that Wheeler had a much, heavier jump in his step than the other few games at the start of the season. So maybe with a bit of more time to, develop chemistry and learn each other's tendencies, that maybe Wheeler could be a top line option. But I think the Rangers would want it to be Kaapo Kakko over Wheeler for obviously many reasons. I think Kakko just needs to break through anywhere in the lineup, and with that, confidence will come. and he'll be able to get another shot at that first line.
Yeah, it's a great point by you. And I'm interested to see, and I'm sure a lot of Rangers fans to see if he can recapture that top line spot. But Mollie, thank you so much for giving us some time. I know you're grinding; it's a long season, but the Rangers are off to a hot start. A lot of news, obviously, every single day with this team, and it's constantly developing. And again, Rangers fans, if you're watching here on the YouTube channel, check out Mollie on the Up in the Blue Seats podcast, a Rangers New York Post sports podcast. They do a great job over there. Thank you as always, Mollie.
Thanks for having me, Ryan.